Local news, national news, even feel-good news, delivering the topics that are relevant to you.
That's why I listen to Joe. He covers it all.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.
All right, now I've got to explain to you why I was not here yesterday. I was here yesterday, and then something went really, really wrong, and then I had to go home. And I figure the story about why I wasn't here yesterday should take about 45 minutes. So everybody clear some time, clear your schedules. And I'm going to tell you why I wasn't here yesterday because of a cup of coffee. A cup of coffee that I had in 1992 is the reason why I wasn't here yesterday. Laurel, are you ready? Are you ready for my coffee story?
I am locked and loaded.
All right, so here's the deal. And Laurel, I'm always blown away by you because you seem to have a very high tolerance for caffeine.
Yes, to my detriment, yes. I can drink 3 espressos and go take a nap. I barely touches me.
I do not understand that. That blows my mind. So I don't know, for our younger listeners, you may not be aware of this, but Starbucks didn't always exist. One could not always go get some sweet coffee drink at every corner in America. We used to not have coffee shops like that, and the coffee shops we did have were part of diners, and you pretty much could only get black coffee, and you could maybe get cream and sugar, and that's about it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was about it.
That's what you get.
So when I was a kid, and my mom and dad drank coffee. My mom and dad both drank black coffee. And for that matter, my mom and dad, when I was a little kid, smoked cigarettes. So they would smoke cigarettes and drink black coffee. And thankfully, both my mom and dad gave up cigarettes, and I was very happy about that, but they both continue to drink coffee. So in 1992, I remember this. I had my very first cup of coffee in 1992. I would never drink my dad's coffee. It always smelled terrible. I was like, I don't like coffee. I'm not going to do it. But I was working a very long shift at a radio station in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and I was tired. And I thought, wait a minute, doesn't coffee have some sort of component in it that helps you stay awake? It has caffeine. And so I made a cup of coffee at the radio station. And for anybody who works in an office where you got an office coffee machine, you always know it's a crapshoot as to what kind of coffee you're going to get out of the coffee machine at work, right? So I poured myself a cup of coffee, and I thought to myself, again, this is 1992. I was, I'm sure I could do the math, but I was probably 20 or 21 years old at the time. And I poured a cup of coffee at the radio station, and I added cream and sugar to it, and I drank it, and I remember it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. But I love my father. I lost my father about 4 years ago, and that was tough for me. And I wanted to call my dad and say, Dad, I finally tried coffee, and it's horrible. So, like, kids today have coffee, and it's no big deal. Right? Because kids, I mean, my children drink coffee from Starbucks, but they're basically drinking chocolate milks that have that or milkshakes that have maybe a hint of caffeine and or coffee in it. Right? I mean, they drink junk, right?
Yeah. Starbucks coffee is not really coffee.
It's not coffee. It's not for
this much sugar.
Right. It's this much foam, this much sugar, and it's a little bit of coffee. So I called my dad and I said, Dad, I had coffee and it was terrible. And he said, well, what did you put in it? And I said, well, I put like 3 scoops of sugar and a couple of packages of creamer or whatever. And my dad goes, just drink it black. Don't add anything to it. Well, that began my love of coffee. As soon as my dad said, don't put anything in it, I really started to love black coffee. And even if I do go to a Starbucks, which I honestly don't think I have ever in my life purchased a coffee from Starbucks. I have purchased things for other people at Starbucks. I don't think I've ever bought myself a coffee at a Starbucks. But to this day, if I order a coffee, it's black. And I love black coffee. But here is the problem that I ran into. Again, I go back to radio station coffee pots. And I'm assuming that radio station coffee pots are the same as any other business's coffee pots, right? Is that fair?
I don't know. I've eaten coffee from a radio station before. You have to have it with a fork. I mean, it's that bad.
So here's what I found. I found that at any given radio station in the break room where there's a coffee pot, you never know who made the coffee before you and how long it has been sitting there, right? I mean, some people are courteous and they'll leave the coffee bag and they'll put the date and the time and you'll know, okay, that coffee was made 17 hours ago. I think I'll make fresh coffee, right? But oftentimes, here's what I would do. So for years in my radio career and in my coffee drinking career, I would just grab whatever pot of coffee was brewing at the radio station in the break room. And I never knew if they used one bag of coffee in it. Sometimes people would use 2 bags of coffee in the coffee maker. Sometimes people would use 3 bags of coffee in a coffee maker. Sometimes people would put decaf coffee in the coffee maker that goes in the coffee pot that is for caffeinated coffee. So every single cup of coffee for like 10, 15 years was an absolute crapshoot in radio because I never knew what I was going to get. And some days I was wired out of my mind. I was freaking out. I'd be so wired, and I'm like, why am I so wired? And then I realized, oh my gosh, the coffee today must have been a 3-bagger. 2-bagger at least. It wasn't a 1-bagger, and it certainly wasn't decaf. Or some days I'd be really, really tired. And I'm like, man, what was with the coffee today? Did someone make decaf? And then invariably, to stop me if this sounds familiar, right? You go get a cup of coffee, you take 4 or 5 sips, and the next thing you know, you walk away and you come back and your coffee's cold. And you think, well, I'm not going to finish that coffee. I don't mind chilled coffee, like coffee on ice, and I don't mind hot coffee, but I hate hot coffee that turned cold. I mean, hot coffee that turned cold is terrible, right? So what I would do is I would
room temperature coffee.
It's horrible. So I would start in any given workday, I would start 5 or 6 or 7 cups of coffee. So I never really knew how much coffee I was drinking in any given day, and then thus consequently, I never really knew how much caffeine I was consuming in any given day. So I finally decided that I was going to put my love of coffee aside and that I was going to give up coffee because it was just too inconsistent, and I hated that. Well, I quickly realized I was addicted to coffee, and as soon as you stop drinking the coffee, you get these terrible headaches, right? And then you get really tired and sluggish, and just headaches like a dagger has been placed violently between your eyeballs. I mean, just violently stabbing you between your eyeballs. Is this graphic? Is it too graphic? So I decided, all right, fine. I'm gonna find a happy medium. So what I did was I found these. Now, these are caffeine pills. College students may know them as no-dose, right? No-dose is a caffeine pill. So for years, I switched from coffee to caffeine pills. And I would every day take 2 caffeine pills. Now, 1 caffeine pill is 200 milligrams. So it stands to reason that 2 caffeine pills is 400 milligrams. Now, an average cup of coffee is generally about 95 to 100 milligrams of caffeine. So having 2 pills or 400 milligrams of coffee is the equivalent of 4 stout cups of coffee, right? And it worked. It worked just fine until my cardiologist said to me, Joe, do you know that your heart is beating really, really fast? And I said, yes, my heart always beats. Like my resting heart rate. Do you guys happen to know what your resting heart rate is?
Yeah, mine's like 80 something.
Jerk, turd. No one likes you, Laurel. What about you, Paul?
I drink 3 to 4 cups of coffee a day. I even had an iced cup of coffee right before here. My pulse rate is about 60 to 66. That's where it's like
Paul, this is why no one likes you. This is why, and I've taken a survey. Everybody hates you. Everybody hates you. Everybody hates you. So my resting.
My health is not great, Joe, but my pulse is great. So.
My resting heart rate was about 100. So I had like a jackrabbit heart. My heart was beating so fast. So my cardiologist is like, Joe, no more caffeine for you ever. You're not allowed to have any caffeine. So I said, okay, fine. I will stop. And so I did. I now, just like anybody who's trying to quit, smoking or drinking or whatever, you have a couple of fits and starts, right? There was a couple times I quit, and then I was like, oh, I'm so tired. I need some caffeine. I've got to have some caffeine. But for the most part, I am 100% caffeine-free. Every now and again, maybe once a week, I'll have a Coke. And I only have a Coke if I'm eating out at a restaurant. It's the only time. I don't drink Coke at home. I don't drink Coke at work. I never drink sodas. I only drink water or God's gift to liquid refreshments, orange Gatorade. Orange Gatorade is the greatest, most refreshing drink on the face of the planet, and it always, always will be. I wish I had an endorsement for Orange Gatorade. I could go on and on about them forever. It is the best. So yesterday, let me flash forward now to yesterday. So I've taken you back. We started in 1992. So we've moved all the way to current. So yesterday was Monday, right? Was yesterday not Monday?
Yes.
Yeah, yesterday, Monday. I was feeling a little tired. And I thought, oh my gosh, I am really tired today. And so I thought, I'm going to go ahead and I keep my bottle of No-Dos handy because every now and again I'll pop one or two if I'm feeling particularly tired. Well, yesterday I made a major mistake. Yesterday I took 2 tabs, so I took 400 milligrams of caffeine on an empty stomach. And that was the mistake I made. And so I came to work yesterday. I was here. I anchored my newscasts. I was on the air for my newscasts. But the closer we got to 5 o'clock for the beginning of the show to start, I was getting dizzy and lightheaded. I couldn't see straight. My eyes were going blurry. And I realized, oh my gosh, I have made a terrible, terrible, terrible mistake. I had 400 milligrams of caffeine on an empty stomach, and now I'm paying for it. And so I went to Josh, and I said, Josh, this is so weird, but I've got a problem, man. I got to go home. I can't do a show tonight. So in the first time in my 40-year radio career, I missed a show last night because of caffeine. I'm so upset at myself. I went home and I was so angry at myself. Like, I know some people call out for work, because they just don't like their jobs. I'm not one of those guys. I love my job. And honestly, I'm telling you right now, if you ever get a chance to work in radio, to be on the radio, jump at the opportunity. You'll never have a bad day in your life. Every day is better than the day before. Radio absolutely rocks. Being on the radio is all I've ever done since I was 15 years old, and I've never had a bad day on the radio. Radio is a blast. Unless you're on 400 milligrams of caffeine on an empty stomach. And I just said, I am so sorry, but I have got to go home. So my apologies to everybody. I will not again ever take caffeine on an empty stomach. I'll make sure next time I at least have a sandwich or something first. But yes, that was the embarrassing story for why I missed the Joe Kelley Show yesterday. I may be the only radio guy ever to miss hosting his own damn show because he made a damn mistake having too much damn caffeine. But I feel good tonight, and I'm 100% caffeine free. This is my energy level with no caffeine, right? Isn't that crazy? I am like naturally caffeinated, but I just messed it up yesterday, regrettably. 844-580-WDBO. Use the open mic in the WDBO app. I'm Joe Kelley, caffeine-free since yesterday.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk.
Joe, Starbucks coffee is absolutely terrible.
That's what I hear.
I'm ex-military. I could drink anything. You want to get Black Rifle Coffee, Blackbeard's Delight.
Okay.
I get it in between medium and strong. Drink it black, and it's the best coffee you'll ever have.
And I'm sure that's great advice. I have no doubt that that's great advice, but I don't drink coffee. That's the thing. I gave up coffee altogether. I don't drink things with caffeine, and yesterday was an aberration, and that's why I had a problem with it.
Well, first of all,
yes,
in this day and age, just get a Keurig.
I have one.
Second of all, you should be drinking espresso. It's easy to make, and oh my, is it wonderful.
That's what I have every morning.
And I love espresso. I love coffee. I love black coffee. So I drink my coffee the same way I drink my liquor, my spirits, and that is I drink it neat. I don't add anything to it. I don't add ice cubes. I don't add any kind of mix-ins. And same with cigars. If I have a cigar, which is very rare, I want a stout cigar. I want to be able to taste the cigar.
Earth to Joe. Earth to Joe.
Uh-oh.
It's not the coffee. It's not the caffeine pills.
Uh-oh.
It's just Joe Kelley. Oh. You're always hyper, and we love it. Earth to Joe and out.
Yeah, that might be the case. There's no doubt. And I am always hyper. And honest to goodness, I don't take any. I took Adderall for a while. I don't take Adderall. I don't take any kind of stimulants at all, and I'm always jazzed up and excited. Usually, I just get really excited about being on the radio, to be honest with you.
I used to work third shift security years ago, and the guy I used to go around with would go through the offices and empty the coffee pots that were from the morning, drink those coffee pots in all the buildings, then come back to the office break room and drink more coffee. He was crazy.
Man, I can't even imagine that.
No.
Yeah. No, does it, Paul, does caffeine affect you? I mean, does it keep you awake at night?
Not really. No. You know what? It used to, and I would watch my dad drink black coffee because he loved his black coffee. He'd have a big old cup of black coffee, sit and smoke a pipe. You know, he was one of the old guys.
Yeah.
But he'd go right to sleep.
I don't get it.
So caffeine just, nope, no problem.
Caffeine definitely works on me, and evidently, especially with an empty stomach. I think I may be going to see Oppenheimer tonight. My twin sons, Han and Chewie, I really wanted them to see this movie, and boy, the cat's in the cradle. The kids don't have a whole lot of time for me these days because they both work. They work at Urban Air, the trampoline place. They both work at Urban Air. And so they said that the only time they could go see Oppenheimer would be tonight. If we start at 7:30, that movie's not going to be over until like midday Thursday. I mean, that's such a long movie, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's a very long movie, but I heard it's really, really good.
I did last night, though. I watched, as long as I was home, not on the air, recovering from my caffeine hangover. I did watch Fat Boy and Little Man, the 1989 Paul Newman movie. John Cusack was in it, and a bunch of others. And it was a movie about, it was Oppenheimer before Oppenheimer was Oppenheimer. It was a movie about Robert Oppenheimer that starred Paul Newman. And to me, it was a good primer for actually seeing the movie Oppenheimer. I'm kind of excited about that. My name is Joe Kelley. It's 5:30. You're listening to The Joe Kelley Show.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. News, weather, traffic, all the things you want on your drive home. Plus, Joe Kelley being, well, Joe Kelley. Now, The Joe Kelley Show on Orlando's news and talk, WDBO.
So I mentioned I watched Fat Man and Little Boy last night on streaming. I don't remember what I streamed it on. So Fat Man and Little Boy is a 1989 movie that stars Paul Newman, John Cusack, John McGinty, Bonnie Bedelia, and a bunch of others. And basically, it is the movie Oppenheimer before Christopher Nolan did Oppenheimer. It's a movie about Robert Oppenheimer and the development of the atomic bomb and all that other stuff. And one of the things that really struck me about watching that movie from 1989, and I haven't seen Oppenheimer yet. We may or may not go see it tonight. But one of the things that really struck me was how many cigarettes Robert Oppenheimer had, the actor. Oh, in fact, you know who the actor that played Robert Oppenheimer in that movie was? The guy that played the kooky guy on the A-Team. Do you remember the A-Team TV series back in the 1980s? But the kooky guy played Robert Oppenheimer. And in the movie, Fat Man and Little Boy, the actor, I mean, he's he's just smoked nonstop. He was smoking cigarettes for the entire movie. And evidently, in the new Oppenheimer, Cillian Murphy's character, which is, again, Robert Oppenheimer, smokes a boat ton of cigarettes. And I was really struck in watching that movie from 1989 last night, how much cigarette smoking was taking place during this movie. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not offended by it. I'm not, nowadays you get disclaimers saying, the following movie depicts cigarette use and violence and cussing and sex or whatever. I'm not offended by cigarette use. It's just something that I don't see a lot these days. People don't, they don't smoke out in public like they once did. People don't smoke in movies quite like they once did. But evidently in the Oppenheimer movie, and for anybody who's seen it, you'll know this, but evidently the Cillian Murphy character Oppenheimer smokes a lot of cigarettes. And Cillian Murphy is a non-smoker. And I read this piece in the Daily Mail about how they do this. How do you get a non-smoker to smoke for a character? And have you guys seen Cillian Murphy in Peaky Blinders? Peaky Blinders, I think it's like is it a mafia show or something like that? Organized crime show from back in the day?
It's a British one it's just organized crime. It's all kinds of fun stuff, though. Peaky Blinders is a great show.
So evidently he smokes a lot of cigarettes in Peaky Blinders. In fact, he has admitted to smoking nearly 3,000 cigarettes in Peaky Blinders. And he lights up a lot. I'm reading in part here from the Daily Mail. He lights up on cigarettes on set to truly transform Robert Oppenheimer, the scientist and father of the atomic bomb, who relied on cigarettes and martinis to fuel his genius. But the theoretical physicist's unhealthy habits eventually led to him dying from cancer in 1967. So studio executives provide herbal cigarettes to their cast members who have to smoke when their character is described as a heavy smoker. If they're just having like one cigarette or two or whatever, it's not that big of a deal. And maybe an actor happens to smoke anyway, and it's not that big of a deal. They say about Cillian Murphy, real cigarette smokers say usually, when you watch a movie, you can tell which actors actually smoke cigarettes and which ones don't. But Cillian Murphy is not a cigarette smoker, but people say that he is the best at depicting what a cigarette smoker looks like, which I find to be interesting. So they use these herbal cigarettes, especially as they often have to shoot a particular scene many times. So if you're smoking real cigarettes, kind of like with me taking too much caffeine, if you're smoking real cigarettes and you're on the 25th take of a particular scene where you're smoking cigarettes, that's a whole hell of a lot of nicotine that you're going to be soaking in during that time, I would think.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.
Paul Cross checks our drive on this Tuesday afternoon. Hello, PC.
Hey there, Joe. It's very busy if you're heading up and out of Seminole County. You've got a crash I-4 eastbound at DeBerry Avenue. That has traffic backed up now into Longwood and even approaching 434. You are on and off the brakes all the way through Lake Mary into Sanford and over the bridge. So a lot of patience required for you there. I also have a crash here just past Lee Road, I-4 eastbound, and that's got traffic kind of jammed up through that area as well. From the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
And I can tell you, I have never had a cigarette in my life. Never, even though both my parents were smokers, I never had a cigarette in my entire life until, I don't know, about 3 or 4 months ago. I was walking into the radio station, into the building one day, and a team of our engineers were out front having a cigarette, and one of them jokingly handed me a cigarette, and I thought, oh, what the heck? And I stuck it in my mouth, and I lit it, and come to find out, there were Marlboro.
Say Irish Spring instead. Just say Irish Spring.
Soap. They were Marlboro Reds.
Boro.
They were Reds, which I found out later is like the harshest type of cigarette. I mean, that is.
And let me say, just to clarify this, an engineer was smoking.
Yes.
I think that's on the application for the job. You got to have
all of our engineers smoke, every one of them, every last one. And so I had 3 puffs of that cigarette, And as soon as I started feeling dizzy, I said, okay, my cigarette smoking career is over. I'm going to stop smoking that. So
3?
3 puffs, 3 and 3.
You had 3, not just one. You sat there and had 3.
Inhalations. I inhaled it. I didn't just puff it. I inhaled it. So for movies like Oppenheimer, instead of nicotine and tobacco, they use herbal cigarettes that are made up of a blend of herbs like jasmine, ginseng, lotus leaf, and passion flower. Honey Rose Herbal Smokes, that's a brand. Honey Rose Herbal Smokes is one brand that makes prop cigarettes, and they're often used by actors or those who are trying to quit smoking. They sell packets of unbranded smokes that contain less tar than their real counterparts. While they are thought to have lower health risks, Cancer.org comes along. They ruin everything, don't they? Cancer.org claims that even herbal cigarettes with no tobacco give off particulates and carbon monoxide and are dangerous to your health. Now, earlier this month, Cillian Murphy, the star of Oppenheimer, revealed that he's giving up on taking on chain-smoking characters in his future projects. So there you go. That's how they're smoking cigarettes. I'd kind of like to try an herbal cigarette. But that's not the same as, what's that other cigarette that people sometimes smoke? What's that called? That smells funny? No, not weed. Not weed. There's that one cigarette that people smoke. You guys don't know what I'm talking about?
Like a clove?
Clove! That's it. Clove cigarettes, yes. So you can always tell when you walk by someone smoking a clove cigarette, it's like, oh, damn. I mean, that smells worse than weed. I mean, clove cigarettes smell the worst. And I wonder if these herbal cigarettes smell like clove cigarettes or if they smell like incense. I mean, if they have all kinds
Joe,
of...
do you know much about them? I mean, do you light them? Do you actually inhale smoke? Do you know how that works? Because I don't know about these.
How the herbal cigarettes work? Yeah. You smoke them just like a regular cigarette.
And so you are inhaling. You're still inhaling smoke.
Stop saying you.
Herbal,
I'm
right?
not doing it. I have never smoked.
You as a collective whole you.
If you're doing the group you, yeah, that's fine. So you would still inhale that because as an actor, you got to make it look like you're smoking real cigarettes. You got to make it look like you're enjoying it. You know, that you're satisfied by it, right? Isn't that what you're supposed to do when you smoke cigarettes? You're supposed to be satisfied by it.
I guess so. I'm looking it up right now as we speak. I didn't have to ask Google. I actually got on it, saying the #1 prop cigarette for film. You're right about that.
So we should order. Wow, we should order. Send me the link, would you? I'll order a pack of prop cigarettes, and then obviously, if they're not real cigarettes, the engineers will let us smoke them inside the studios, right?
Yeah, right.
So I'll order a pack of prop cigarettes, and we'll see which one of us can look the coolest.
They come in strawberry,
cigarettes.
Cherry, or menthol.
Ooh, well, real cigarettes come in menthol. I mean, that's
and clove, strawberry, menthol, cherry. I'll let you order whatever you want, and we'll have some of those cockroaches as snacks.
No,
cigarettes.
No, not cockroaches. June bugs. They're June bugs.
Oh, June bugs.
So we could have June bugs and prop cigarettes. We would really
we'll be the cool kids around the station.
I remember as a kid, I grew up on the West Coast. I was born in California. I lived in Oregon. I lived in Washington State.
Yep.
And my mom and dad and I and my brother, I always forget about my brother. My mom and dad and I and my brother, we were on a camping trip to the Oregon coast where it's always cloudy and cold, and the beach there is not a sand beach. It's stones. They're rocks. They're pebbles, and they're not comfortable to walk on. But I remember we were on vacation, and my mother started coughing up blood. In the middle of our vacation, she starts coughing up blood. And so my brother and I had to hang tight while my dad and my mom went to the hospital to deal with my mom coughing up blood. And I don't know if they ever got to a diagnosis or something like that, but that was the last time my mother ever smoked a cigarette. And for that matter, it was the last time my father ever smoked a cigarette, was when my mom coughed up blood. So I'm glad that they coughed up blood when they did, and she did, and I'm glad they stopped smoking cigarettes, because that's just a dreadful habit that is going to shorten your life, and that's just not acceptable. We don't want that, right? Do you ever wonder how people lose fingers? Do you have any idea how many people lose fingers every year in the United States? About 30,000 people, both kids and adults, rush to the ER every year because they've amputated a finger. Would you care to guess what the number 1 and number 2 cause of finger amputations are?
Doors.
Laurel, you are so smart.
Thanks.
Doors is one of them. Doors for children age 4 and younger. 3 out of 4 finger amputations result from fingers that were caught, jammed, or crushed in the opening or closing of a door. So moms and dads with young kids, be really careful. That's how kids lose fingers indoors. How do adults lose their fingers? Hang on, I'll have that one for you. Coming up next on The Joe Kelley Show. Stay right there.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. The 3 big things you need to know.
3. LeBron James's son is in stable condition after suffering cardiac arrest during a basketball workout at the University of Southern California yesterday. A family spokesperson told TMZ that Bronny James is no longer in the ICU. 2. The body of the personal chef to former President Barack Obama has been removed from a pond near the family's home on Martha's Vineyard. Tafari Campbell apparently fell into Edgartown Great Pond Sunday night while paddleboarding. 1. Governor DeSantis is cutting his campaign staff by more than a third. Reports say DeSantis is eliminating nearly 40 positions across all departments of his campaign. DeSantis' campaign finances show he raised $20 million between April and June, but had already spent about 40% of those funds.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Connected to our community. Talk local issues and events with Joe Kelley. Use the open mic in the WDBO app and let Joe know what interests you. The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.
Honestly, my brother and I, my brother Steve, he's 18 months older than me. When we were children, when we were teenagers, we were the original Beavis and Butthead. I mean, everything was fire, fire, fire. We wanted to destroy things. We were little hoodlums. It's remarkable we never got in trouble for anything. Aside from with our parents, we got in trouble with our parents on a couple of occasions. And I've always marveled that both my brother and I have all of our 10 fingers and toes with all the things, with all the times we use fire or firecrackers or stuff like that. So I was really interested when I saw this research from the National Center for Injury Prevention and Control, or NICIPIC. I didn't even know there was a National Center for Injury Prevention and Control. So they say that for children age 4 and younger, 3 out of 4 finger amputations result from fingers caught, jammed, or crushed in the opening or closing of a door. Now, what about men age 55 or older? What would you say is the number 1 cause of finger amputation for men 55 and older? Laura.
Power tools.
Damn, you're good. Did you read my article? Are you reading my show prep?
No, but I know a lot about amputation.
It's power tools, most often power saws. Now, I had a table saw for a long time, and I maybe used it 2 or 3 times. I was scared to death of the table saw. I don't mind a circular saw. I don't mind a jigsaw. I don't mind a band saw. I can handle pretty much any kind of saw, but table saws scare the heck out of me. Paul, have you ever had a table saw?
I have not, and my neighbor had one, and I refused to use it.
Yeah.
I mean, say, you're going to come over and cut something? No, you're not cutting me. I'm not going to touch it.
That's why, like, if I go to Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that, and I need to have
Let 'em
something,
do it.
if I need to have something ripped, I'll be like, hey, I'm going to have them cut this wood for me because I am not using a table
I always
saw.
go to Home Depot and use my friend three finger Bill. He's the one that helps me on everything.
That's exactly right. All right, coming up next here on the Joe Kelley Show, young Americans, are they not proud to be Americans? Young Americans not proud to be so. We'll have that for you. Coming up next on the Joe Kelley Show.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Now, WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Triple Team Traffic.
We will concentrate here north of Orlando on I-4. We've got a lot of problems here. I-4 westbound, it's very heavy through Lake Mary and then into downtown, beginning around Parr. But on the eastbound side, you're still seeing brake lights between Parr and Lee, and then that crash up in DeBerry that has traffic. You're on and off the brakes all the way from Longwood up to Lake Monroe. 417 northbound as well. Very heavy over Lake Jessup all the way into Lake Mary. This report sponsored by VyStar Credit Union. Want to make your summer more exciting? Right now, sign up for a VyStar Rewards credit card. Get up to 3 points for each dollar spent. Visit VyStarCU.org/summer to learn more. From the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. Insightful.
You tell the truth from your point of view.
Entertaining.
Man, that guy is a lot taller than he sounds on the radio.
And engaging.
When we hear you on the radio, it's a good thing.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.
This may be the most point-blank question I've ever asked listeners on the radio. Are you proud to be an American? Yes or no? 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. Use the open mic in the WDBO app. There are no qualifications. There are no rules. Are you proud to be an American? Maybe on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being the most proud, 1 being not proud at all. Where are you? Are you proud to be an American? 844-580-WDBO, or hit me up in the open mic in the WDBO app. I asked this for a very specific reason, as American patriotism is facing a steep decline among young adults over the past decade and now sits at a record low. Young people ages 18 to 34 are not proud of America. Pride in national identity is the lowest amongst 18 to 34, illustrates the fracture between young Americans and older generations at a time of deep partisanship and deep divide in the United States. In the most recent Gallup poll, Americans 55 and older were nearly 3 times more likely to be extremely prideful of their nationality than younger generations. Overall, 39% of U.S. adults say they're extremely proud to be an American in the most recent poll. The percentage of U.S. adults of all ages polled who say that they were extremely proud to be an American remains near a record low. Looking at the past 2 decades, the percentage of Americans expressing extreme pride intensified after September 11th, but began a decline in 2005 that has continued today. The percentage of those extremely proud to be an American stands at 60% for Republicans, 33% for independents, and 29% for Democrats. Let me read that again, as it breaks it down by political affiliation. The percentage of those extremely proud to be an American, 60% for Republicans, half of that for Democrats, 29% for Democrats. Boy, Democrats don't like America. Democrats are not proud to be an American. At least the majority of Republicans are proud to be an American. Younger adults across all 3 political designations, that would be Republican, Independent, and Democrat, are significantly less proud than older adults in each. Although Republicans may be associated with greater national pride, they tend to be older than Democrats and Independents. So again, it goes back to the age being the dividing line there, not necessarily political party. So are you proud to be an American? You know, I get asked this question all the time, not necessarily are you proud to be an American, but people ask, you know, my thoughts about American politics, American government, our way of government, our political leaders in particular. And I will tell you, sometimes I listen to like Sean Hannity, and I wonder, like, how is Sean Hannity not going insane? Because it is so frustrating. It is so, America can be so frustrating sometimes, particularly when it comes to politics and the culture wars. I hate our culture wars, and I largely hate our politics. Yet I am proud to be an American. But I think what keeps me from going insane and just every night going to bed grumbling about all that's wrong with America, all that's wrong with our politicians, all that's wrong with our elected leaders, is I first and foremost do not identify myself as a citizen of America. First and foremost, I identify myself as a citizen of the kingdom of God. And I'll tell you, when you identify yourself as a citizen of the kingdom of God, everything gets a lot easier. Because I don't have to take ownership in whether or not America's having a good day or a bad day. Because my ultimate goal is citizenship in the kingdom. Citizenship in America is second or third or fourth on the list. Kingdom of God is first. My wife is second. My children are third. All of humanity is fourth. And I think like America is like fifth. There, I was just spitballing that here live on the radio. But that's about where my priorities are. So I don't walk around with a chip on my shoulder looking to pick a fight with anybody who doesn't like America, for anybody who's not proud of America. But I'm always curious about people who, I mean, if they're so disenchanted with the United States, why do you stay here? If you hate America so much, why in the world would you stay here? And I know that there are expat communities popping up all over the globe these days. I've got friends who now live in Panama, in Costa Rica, and there are American compounds popping up in other countries all over the world right now. But it is disappointing. It is something is not right. Something is broken. If the 18 to 34 crowd, and I don't want to put words in their mouth, to not be proud to be an American doesn't necessarily mean that they hate America, but it doesn't mean they don't. So I don't want to put words in their mouth and say that the younger generation hates America, but they certainly don't like America. They are not fond of America. So something is obviously broken. Something is wrong. Why do our younger adults have no pride in America? Why do Democrats have no pride in America? I mean, Democrats you'd think would have all kinds of pride in America right now. Democrats rule the White House. Democrats rule the United States Senate. I would think if I was a Democrat, I would be all kinds of proud. Nope, Democrats are not proud of the United States. I'm dashed. I'm disappointed. I hate to see that. I hate to see so many people be so down and pessimistic on our country. And I have to think that those are people who don't realize how special the United States is, how many countries after the United States and even before the United States have modeled their nation's constitutions, have modeled their nation's government on that of the United States. And I don't think the younger generation understands the concept of American exceptionalism. American exceptionalism to some people is just an arrogant boast. American exceptionalism is just some redneck jerk with a big old tattoo and I was going to say drinking Bud Light, but not anymore. Not Bud Light. American exceptionalism is that we set this country apart from all the other countries, from all the other colonialisms. We set this nation apart to be different, to be exceptional, to be the shining city on the hill. And to this day, we remain the country that more people are trying to get into than get out of. People outside of America love America. Except the French. I don't think they love us. But you get the idea. I think somehow, somewhere, we're failing our kids. We're failing them in teaching them about the exceptionalism of the United States and how the United States is different than everybody else, how the United States was established differently, governed differently, and to this day still welcomes people from nations all over the world. I know that at the moment, our border is a fiasco, and we're no longer welcoming people. They're just running across the border. They're entering at their own free will without any kind of identification or any kind of process, and it's an abomination. It's terrible. Boy, talk about something to not be proud about is our border fiasco. And there certainly are elements of America that I'm not proud of. I'm not proud of our educational system. I'm not proud of our healthcare system. I'm not proud that people can go bankrupt because of one illness. I'm not proud of that. There are elements of America, I mean, our waste, fraud, and abuse with taxpayer dollars, the massive bloated size of our federal government. It's embarrassing. I'm not proud of that. But you have to take the totality of a nation. And even though there are elements about our country that I'm not proud of and that I do not like, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic in the WDBO app. What do you think? Are we failing our younger generation? Is it school's fault? Is it mom and dad's fault for not instilling pride in America? For not helping kids understand what is different, what is special about the United States compared to other nations? Sometimes we're so myopic. We only see what's right in front of us. And frankly, a lot of us, a lot of Americans don't travel. You don't get to see third world countries. Man, take a mission trip and you'll see third world countries and you'll think, oh my gosh, I'm the luckiest man on earth to be born in the United States of America, to live and make a living and raise a family in the United States of America. Travel some, and it might help with your perspective. And maybe that's something we need to do with our kids and a better education about all of the greatness that is America. With all the problems we had, slavery, that is a terrible blemish on our country. And it's a terrible blemish that will never go away. Our original sin as a nation was slavery. And man, I'm not proud of that. I know you're not proud of that, but it happened. But you take it in with the totality of everything else that is America. I am super proud to be an American. It is exceptional. It is the shining city on the hill. 844-580-WDBO or use the open mic in the WDBO app.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Looking for expert advice but don't want to surf the net?
It's time-consuming to research on the web.
Or you have a question but don't know who to trust?
Oh, yeah. That's important.
Well, look no further. Join us every weekend for expert advice on everything from gardening to financial, auto to home, health to legal.
Wow. It's all local and it's all free.
Yep. And because it's on WDBO, you'll still get your news, weather, and traffic. When making your weekend plans, be sure to include WDBO. The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Breaking news to lively debates, covering the issues that matter to you.
I make it a point to listen to Joe Kelley when I need to fully understand what's happening in the news.
Now, the Joe Kelley Show on Orlando's News and Talk, WDBO.
Hey, Joe. I am a proud gay man who's married to another man, conservative, independent, and I do love America.
Ah, you're like a unicorn there, aren't you? You're a gay man, a gay conservative married to another man. Well, welcome. We're glad to have you, and thank you so much for that.
I took an oath to defend this country against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And whoever don't like it, they can get the hell out of the United States.
Thank you so much for taking that oath. We certainly appreciate that. We wouldn't be who we are if it weren't for people like you that take up arms and take that oath.
I'm almost certain the reason why people that are aged between 18 and 34 were not taught civics and American history in high school, and they replaced that with climate change, gloom and doom, and thinking they're all going to be dead by the time they're 50 because America is a ugly country and we're all killing the planet.
You know, and honestly, I think we the media are partly to blame. I mean, all we do is tell you all these lousy things about America all day, all night. We tell you how horrible America is, and it just it's frustrating. And I think that's kind of where we are. By the way, Laurel, you're in that age group, by the way. You're in the 18 to 34 age group.
I am, yeah.
And it's your people who aren't as proud to be in America. And he says that open mic says you guys didn't take civics and government. You took civics. I mean,
I did. So now I'm near the end of that. So I'm going to be 33 next month. So I'm towards the end of it. And I was telling our chat group on Facebook that, you know, I am certainly incredibly proud to be an American, and I don't know many people my age that are not. That said, I don't know every 30-year-old in the world, right? But I can definitely see that in the younger generations. You know, I can see that in the 20-year-olds that think that oppression is everywhere and everybody's out to get them. And, you know, I don't know. It's sad, but I had civics. I definitely did, and we learned all about government. So,
well, I feel like we have taught everybody to be offended at the smallest thing. And we constantly, if you watch the network news, even some of the cable news, if you watch it every day, every night, which a lot of Americans do, I do not. Just because I don't need that anxiety, I don't need that stress of their 24-hour news cycle. I don't watch that. But I mean, I could see where people would come to that conclusion because there is just so much negativity out there. Well, there's a lot of great things that happen in the United States. It just doesn't get reported on quite as often as the bad things that happen in the United States.
Joe, I'm extremely proud to be an American. And if people don't like it and they're young, go ahead and move to a different country and see how they like it there. Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless America.
God bless America. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Hey, Joe. When you were in Colorado and went to a dispensary, did you smoke a special cigarette or did you just eat things?
No, I did not smoke a special cigarette when I went to Denver. I just ate things when I went to Denver.
And that was right before you couldn't breathe anything anyway.
Yeah,
so.
I know. That was when
you couldn't smoke if you wanted to. You couldn't breathe oxygen.
That was the beginning of when my lungs started to fill up with fluids. So, yeah, I'm never going back to Denver as long as I live. And that's it. That's just A. There's no B. A, I'm never going back to Denver as long as I live.
Hey, Joe. Talking about Robert Oppenheimer smoking, ironically, he actually died from throat cancer.
He did. He absolutely did. In fact, one would have imagined that he would have died from cancer from the radiation that he worked with over the years, but he didn't get exposed, unlike somebody else who did during the Trinity tests. Someone did get exposed and died a terrible, terrible death. It was played by John Cusack in the movie Fat Man and Little Boy. And you know where Fat Man and Little Boy come from, right? You understand the origin of Fat Man and Little Boy?
Yes.
The bombs.
The nuke names.
Yeah,
yes.
That was the name of the bombs. One was called Fat Man and one was called Little Boy. And we only had 2 bombs, and we weren't sure they were both going to work. So you can join us at 844-580-WDBO or use the open mic in the WDBO app. Coming up next, scientists now have the green light to merge human brain cells with computer chips. Oh, damn. What could possibly go wrong? We'll get into that straight ahead.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. Orange, Seminole, Osceola, and all of Central Florida. Join the conversation now by using the open mic in the WDBO app. Now, the Joe Kelley Show on Orlando's news and talk, WDBO.
By the way, my sources just told me that Ronald, our producer, had a birthday yesterday. Is that true, Ronald? You had a birthday yesterday? Now, to be clear, Ronald was not in the office yesterday, right? You didn't come to work yesterday. I can relate to that. I I came to work. I just left early.
He had the fortitude to just not even come in. You came in and bailed.
Yeah, I did. Well, happy birthday, Ronald. So congratulations, Ronald. Happy birthday.
Ronald.
30, 33, 32, 20, 20,
like that.
27, 20, are you 28, 29?
In radio, yeah.
30, something like that. All right. Well,
Radio
congratulations.
years.
Happy birthday to you. All right, let's go to Mr. G is joining us at 844-580-WDBO. And I'm told that you're a teacher. Is that right, Mr. G?
Yes, I am, and a father of 5 children that range from 23 to 34 years old.
Good for you.
And been listening to you since 2020 when you would keep me company from UCF all the way to Kirkman Row on the 408 in the mornings.
I appreciate you
Early
listening.
in the morning.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
Well, it seems like it.
Well, yeah. You used to have the little filming in your little studio, I think, at your house. Or
that's right. Yeah, during the pandemic.
With a cat.
I know.
That was always around there.
Yeah, I still have that cat, Katie George Washington.
Well, here's my bullets. Number one, it's parenting. If you don't teach your children about what the great country they're in, they will never know. They will feel enabled. When I tell children at school, you think that every child in the world, when they raise their hand, they can go to the bathroom. You think that when they open the refrigerator, if they have a refrigerator, they can choose what kind of juice they want. So our children are so enabled, but the parents are the ones that have to tell them. In elementary school, social studies is very low on the poll. Usually it's not even taught at all. During social studies, no problem, and then you get it in 7th grade civics. But then when you get to college, if you go to college, their ideals and ideology shape you a different way.
Oh boy, it sure does. It sure does. That is a liberalism factory. Colleges are most colleges and universities.
Yes, and then if you don't instill this into your children, they're just going to take it for granted and not really care. Like I said, my children range from 23 to 34, which I have 2 Gen Z and 3 millennials. And 4 of my children are in the Air Force and serve our country.
Wow.
One of them is getting ready to go to the Air Force after finishing at UCF. They appreciate what they have.
Well, you've got to be super proud of your kids.
I am, and when you go to other countries like I have, and they don't like Americans because they feel that we are spoiled and enabled. And when you go to those countries and you see what's going on, maybe they'll appreciate it. But literally, social studies and those skills are not being taught. I'm an old person. I was taught AVC, Americanism versus communism. Later on, you get American history in school, but nowadays we're not teaching our children. Our parents are not teaching our children to appreciate what they have in life.
You know, so it's so interesting. It's so interesting what you just mentioned there, Mr. G. You were talking about, how we used to have a common enemy of the Soviet Union. We used to have a common enemy of during World War II of Germany and Japan. But after the Iron Curtain fell, we no longer had a common enemy. And that study that I was reading about pride in America, they say that over the past 2 decades, Americans expressed extreme pride after 9/11 because we had a common enemy after 9/11. But by 2005, that declined. We no longer have a common enemy. And without a common enemy, we turn on one another. And we just tear each other apart. And it kind of makes you long for the old days of the Cold War, when we had a common enemy.
It is a sad situation to see our country divided so much, and it's very sad. One of the things that I see in our schools that helps a little bit, and we talked about that, is the influx of a lot of these children. And they tell stories to the children that are from here. And I've heard horror stories of how they got here. And then the children, they might appreciate it more.
Yeah.
I had a student with a broken arm and it healed crooked. And I remember one day they said to him, they asked him, what happened to your arm? He said, well, I broke it in Honduras, and there's no doctors, and my parents couldn't afford for me to get it fixed.
Wow.
So now I have a crooked arm for the rest of my life. Maybe that's what we need our children to see more about. We don't show them that side of the world.
You know, and it's so interesting because
every child is like that.
Because I think we can all agree, and I think you would agree, that the American healthcare system is screwed up. I mean, we've got serious problems with the American healthcare system, that it can bankrupt somebody with a single diagnosis. It can ruin people's financial lives. It can ruin, every aspect of people's lives. But we know that if someone is going to break their arm, no matter who they are, no matter where they're from, if they're in the United States, they're going to get treated somehow, some way. And even if it's treated for free, they're going to get that arm set, and they're not going to have to deal with having a crooked arm for the rest of their lives.
Right. I appreciate this country so much. I was born in Illinois. I had 5 brothers that served in Vietnam. I have 5 children that are going to be in the military. And we defend this country. We love this country because this country is the place that you can come with a few pennies. And if you apply yourself with hard work, you can make something of yourself. I could have easily used my upbringing as an excuse instead of a reason to succeed. I could have used it as an excuse and say, hey, I grew up poor. I grew up in the projects on South Street. I got the block of cheese every month.
Yeah.
We got the food stamps every month. And I could have easily said, I'm just not going to try. But my parents instilled in me the love of the country, the love of education, how far, because education is the great equalizer if you just apply yourself. I appreciate your time, and I hope you have a great night.
Mr. G, I am glad that there are teachers like you out there. Thank you so much for your service to this community, and thank you for your family, your ancestors, and your spawn for being such outstanding American citizens. We really, really do appreciate that. Thank you from the absolute bottom of my heart. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. Hit me up in the open mic in the WDBO app.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Talk and discussion on the latest breaking national news.
Crude oil prices continue to fall.
Local news.
You're not going to have Disney have its own government in Central Florida.
And stories that matter to you. Use the open mic in the WDBO app and let your voice be heard on the Joe Kelley Show.
Hey, Joe, I'm currently wearing a shirt that says, has an American flag on it. You can point out a lot of negative traits that America has and a lot of blemishes in her history, but the bottom line is she's done more to advance liberty and freedom around the world than any other country on the planet, and will continue to do so. The political climate in the country, now that's a different story, but we'll get through that. I love America. See you later, folks.
I think he's got like one of those Radio Shack phones or something like that, one of those Sports Illustrated football phones or something. I'm not sure.
For the lady that said that all the young people that aren't happy with America should just leave, no, we're going to change the things that we don't like about this country. That's what America's about. That's what makes America so great, is that when you don't like something that's going on, you change it. You do the right thing. You don't just leave. That's what cowards do.
Well, I think, and I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but I think what the previous open mics meant when they said, you know, if you don't like it, you can leave. I think part of that is go out into the world and look at how other nations are run, how other nations deal with their citizens, and you might come back to America much more proud of the country that you left, that you didn't have that pride when you were here the first time. I think that's kind of what they were getting at there. And then the other part of that is you say, you know, don't leave, you know, just change what you don't like. I mean, there are some people who want to eliminate vast swaths of the U.S. Constitution. I mean, there are people who are ready to get rid of, at the very least, the Second Amendment, parts of the First Amendment, if not all the First Amendment. I mean, there are people who want. So I disagree with the aspect of, you know, we change what we want to fix, because there are certain things that ought not be changed about our country. And frankly, the First and Second Amendments are, in my book, two of the ones that are high up on the list of things you don't touch. Don't mess with the First Amendment. Don't mess with the Second Amendment. Don't mess with the Constitution. So there are some hangups there that are problematic, quite frankly. My name is Joe Kelley. If you guys ever missed just a minute of the Joe Kelley Show, you can always find it. Just look for the Joe Kelley Show podcast wherever you get your podcasts. You can find them in Spotify. You can find it in Apple Podcasts. You can find it in the WDBO app. Just click the on-demand button in the WDBO app. While you're at it, look for the Joe Kelley Show Facebook page. Give that a like and a follow if you would, please. We would appreciate that. I would tell you that I'm on Twitter, but I don't know that I am on Twitter. Evidently, I'm on X now. And when I say I'm on X, I don't mean to say I'm on ecstasy, because now when people say, oh, yeah, man, I'm on X, then you're thinking, wait, is that a drug? And then what is it called when we actually post something to X now? Is it called excrement? I think it's called excrement. Because it's just, I don't know. Honest to goodness, I have had to question everything I thought I knew about Elon Musk. I thought this guy was some sort of genius. Now I have to say, I think he might be one of the biggest idiots that exists in America today. And I'll leave it at that. We'll just let that linger out there and percolate.
We'll go from one idiot to another. Let's go to traffic with Paul Cross.
That's right. Y'all have a great night. We'll see you back here tomorrow on the Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.